I'm honored to be invited here, and even my panel is so distinguished, retired teacher and my senior from JNU. Uh, let me try. So, I've chosen this topic in search of pluralistic democracy, understanding struggle of India's Muslims. I've changed a bit. It was earlier discrimination. I've made it now struggle uh, to make more, giving it the life of Muslims more active in the participation of democracy. Uh, So, we see for last few years, almost a decade or so, there is a rise in crimes against all minorities. I'll come to what I mean by minorities. We also see that the discrimination faced by Muslims is increasing. They were marginalized for decades, and now they are totally excluded. Uh, my third point is, which will be explained, that democracy inherently means pluralism. Democracy inherently means minority rights. Without pluralism, without minority rights, there can be no democracy. It is majoritarianism. This confusion keeps on happening in popular parlance and by political parties. And my final argument in this paper, in this presentation, is that the the movements led by Muslims is essentially about pluralistic democracy. Democracy where different cultures, peoples, languages, religions together stay and work and harmoniously. Uh, ah, yes, next. So, three things uh, uh, inform my presentation, my own experience. Then I've observed things like reading newspapers and finally fieldwork where I did my PhD in rural Banaras. So, how things like prejudices against Muslims or uh, how India as a democracy is changing, uh, what we are calling majoritarianism, people are calling democracy. This to and fro it's happening. And majoritarian parties are saying they are democratic parties. Actually, they are majoritarian parties. Next. So, so there are like few characteristics of democracy. We know those of you have read regular elections, institutions like election commission, rules and regulations, uh, leaders, those who represent the masses. These are some key features. Now, one thing that I found very relevant is B.R. Ambedkar's definition of minorities. Who is a minority? Can upper class people in India are minority? They are 0.1%, etc. IAS officers can be minority, etc. etc. So, B.R. Ambedkar defined minority as a group of people who face discrimination. Discrimination is the key identifier for the definition of minority. And this idea of B.R. Ambedkar, and B.R. Ambedkar defined Dalits as a minority. 1932 uh, uh, communal award is he was demanding minority rights from the British government. This idea of democracy as minority rights as having minority rights or as inherently inclusive has been given by various political scientists. Taking name of three people: Iris Young, Anne Phillips, and William Licker. All these people have talked about multiculturalism or pluralism as essential feature of minority. So I see a lot of confusion about ignorance and prejudice about Islam and Muslims, and I'm trying to define some of these. Like, so, for example, Albert Horani in his book talks about Islam as a dynamic religion. Every religion right now out, is dynamic. To claim that religions are static uh, is very old argument and has been criticized by uh, many people. I know of Talal Asad criticizing Clifford Geertz. Second point is one of the important aspects of Islam is compassion. There are many virtues. One I'm talking about is compassion. And despite this dynamism or contextual understanding, despite having a set of values, we have a very distorted image of Islam. This has been covered by many. I know of Edward Said in his work Orientalism. Next. So, we know the followers of Islam are called Muslims, and Muslims are extremely diverse group across the world. They are very diverse. Within India, they are diverse. The work by Imtiaz Ahmad in 1970s talked about it. Uh, even the rituals which Muslims practice is diverse. It's not monolithic. They might be saying it's monolithic, but it's not. This has been most clearly, my reading is Vinada's folk theology, where theology which is universal is practiced as a folk, particular. So, particular, universal, interacting with each other. And also, uh, that simply because there is diversity doesn't mean the community doesn't exist. It exists through networks. I know of work by Sugoto Bose, where he has argued that through trade routes, how Muslims were interacting in colonial times. Uh, Next. So again, now it has become a bit, you know, common that in history, people came and Muslims came and started killing and looting, etc. But my readings have shown me that it's precisely the opposite. It's precisely the opposite. Muslims were living very harmoniously with Hindus. I'll come to that. Why this prejudice? And historian like Richard Eaton have argued that it is not the religion like we use these categories, no Muslims and Christians and Sikhs and Buddhists. Richard Eaton argues that it is not the religion, but language which played a major role in medieval times, even modern times. Fine. Oh, ठीक है. So, again, one of the characteristics of lived Islam in India is pluralism. It was inclusive. People were staying together. There was no conflict on the basis of religion. Next. And there has been, some intervention by, there has like, every community has some intellectual contribution. Muslims have also. Oh, I'm skipping this part. Then, next. And Again, this question of freedom struggle. So here also we see Muslims participated in the freedom struggle, and the number of instances can be given. Netaji had Muslim followers in his Indian National Army. One of his close friends was Abid Hussain. And there were a number of Muslims. I've named few: Maulana Azad and Khan Abdul Ghaffar, Khan Zakir Hussain, M.A. Ansari. So many people participated in the freedom struggle. So this thing that Muslims were of different religion and hence different nation is not. Partition was a very complex process. It was, so many things were happening, particularly from 1920s. Uh, and it had also regional dimensions. In case of Bengal, in case of Punjab, I know of Bengal, Joya Chatterjee's work, Bengal Divided, is very famous, like how Hindu separatism led to partition. Yes, next. So, after partition, we see Muslims are facing two types of discrimination. First is systemic, second will come with violent. Systemic, few indicators I have taken. In case of private sector jobs, there is this very good paper. Read it if you haven't. Discrimination Private Sector Jobs by Sukhdev Thorad and Paul Attal. How Dalits and Muslims are excluded. Private sector is very famous for claiming they believe in merit, but they are not at all following merit. Uh, uh, Again, urban rental housing, if you go to a place in Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, same Hindus will tell you they can't give house to non-Hindus, they have to, etc., etc. Also, is the issue of affirmative action, how policies in favor of religious minorities have given them only symbolic things. And this is, I think, one of the limits of liberalism. Liberal lens fails to understand the question of religion, religious minorities, representation. This is, if you have a liberal lens, you fail. Right? One is very clear: Dalit Muslims, Dalit Christians do not get SC status. Dalit Sikhs, Dalit Buddhists get SC status. Very clear contradiction. So, in this way, how a community is systematically discriminated. Another is violent, which we know through media. It's very common. Violence happens, often called communal riots. Now we are not using the word communal riots; we are using the word communal violence. Some scholars are using the word pogrom, POGROM. So, few important works that I know of is Paul Brass' institutionalized rights system, where how is it how different politicians, bureaucrats, police, they organize violence. So it's not, don't think like people are eating this or that, or somebody's worshipping stone, etc. These are well planned, thought of. IPS officers plan it, etc. Politicians back it. Elections are on that. So nothing like common people fighting and having prejudice. It's uh, one, there cannot be any doubt Muslims are homogeneous, and within Muslims, Muslim women face discrimination. So as a Muslim and then as a woman. So I have taken this aspect. I think I should not homogenize a community, and I should take the case of double discrimination seriously. As Hassan Ritu Menon has worked on it. How rather than focusing, what are they arguing? Rather than focusing on important developmental issues like education, health, etc., property rights, etc., what we see, who is wearing burqa, why she is wearing parda, how many kids she is having, all these symbolic questions are labeled to divert our attention from the real developmental issues. It's a very standard practice of ruling elites. And final slide is where I'm saying this taking the CAA, anti-CAA protests, like how often, religious groups are labeled as separatists. CAA protests made it very clear, like religious groups are like actually dying to stay in the mainstream, are dying to live with quote unquote Hindus. So rather than looking at separatism of the minorities, I think, like Rajmohan Gandhi was saying a few weeks ago, like how Hindus, I think, are more separatists. This is what I'm getting sense of. Minorities are, trying their best to live with the majority. It is the majority who is failing to understand minorities. And finally, my this thing. I define minorities as two religious minorities. The whole thing has been going on: Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists are religious, but also social minorities because they face discrimination, which are three groups. For me, they are three groups: Dalits, Adivasis, and women. So these might not be religious minorities, but they face enough discrimination from the society. And one cannot talk about religious minorities as mainly and only religious minorities. It will be like very narrow definition. And we should have, second point is we should have safeguards for all minorities. Uh, and finally, my argument is like Muslims are struggling for a pluralistic democracy. Thank you.